You have pressed play on a track that promised to heal you. And somewhere, underneath the calm, a small voice asked whether any of it was real. Sound does change the body. That part is true, but the story of which sounds and why has been told mostly by people selling the sounds, not the people measuring them. And here is the part that unsettles both the believers and the skeptics. The relief some people feel from a healing frequency is genuine, measurable, and happening in their nervous system right now, even when the frequency itself does nothing special. Welcome to Sleepy Science Facts. Tonight we follow that thread, from the number on a label to the nerve that actually slows your heart. Close your eyes. Let your breath lengthen freely. Rest in the gap between a sound's claim and what your body quietly does. Now, we begin. Tonight's question is simpler than the marketing around it. Does the brain truly respond differently to specific sound frequencies, the way healing music labels promise? The honest answer has two halves. Your auditory system absolutely distinguishes one frequency from another. That is its entire job, and it does so with striking precision. But the claim that a single number, like 528 Hz, carries unique restorative power is a separate claim, and it does not survive contact with the evidence. Holding both truths at once is uncomfortable. Yet that discomfort is the doorway into something more interesting than either the hype or the dismissal. The body's calm is real. The reason offered for it is usually wrong. Start with the word that anchors all of this: frequency. A sound is a pressure wave traveling through air, and its frequency is simply how many times that wave repeats each second, measured in hertz. A low rumble might cycle 30 times a second, a high whistle, several thousand. When people speak of a 432 Hz tuning or a 528 Hz tone, they are naming a precise repetition rate. Nothing more mystical than that. The number describes the wave's pace. What it cannot describe on its own is meaning. The pace of a wave and the effect on a mind are connected, but far more loosely than a tidy number suggests. Inside your inner ear sits a coiled structure called the cochlea, about the size of a pea, and it performs a quiet miracle. It sorts incoming sound by frequency along its length, almost like keys on a piano laid end to end. High frequencies stir the entrance. Low frequencies travel deeper toward the coil's center. This arrangement is called tonotopy, an orderly map of pitch written into living tissue. So when a tone reaches you, your body does not hear a vague wash of sound. It places that tone at a specific address. The ear is, in this sense, a frequency analyzer of remarkable accuracy, built long before any tuning fork existed. Along that cochlea map stand rows of hair cells, each topped with tiny bundles that bend when the right frequency arrives. Bending opens microscopic channels, and a nerve signal is born. There are only about 16,000 of these cells per ear, fewer than the seats in many concert halls, and they do not regenerate in humans once lost. This is why your sense of pitch is both exquisite and fragile. The point worth holding tonight is this: the machinery that detects frequency is real, delicate, and precise. The question is never whether you can detect a tone. It is whether detecting that particular tone changes anything underneath. Now meet the system this whole video circles around: the parasympathetic nervous system. It is the branch of your involuntary wiring that handles rest, digestion, and recovery, the counterweight to the fight or flight response. When it engages, your heart slows, your breathing deepens, your pupils relax, and your body shifts resources toward repair. Much of this is carried by a single wandering nerve, the vagus, which threads from the brainstem down through the chest and gut. When healing sound claims promise relaxation, this is the system they are implicitly promising to switch on. The interesting part is that it can indeed be coaxed, just not by the mechanism most people are told. Where did the famous Solfeggio Frequencies actually come from? Not from a laboratory. In the late 20th century, a writer named Joseph Puello described discovering a set of ancient tones encoded in a medieval Latin hymn, arriving at numbers like 396, 528, and 741 Hertz. The story is appealing: lost sacred knowledge, rediscovered. But historians of music and medieval chant find no evidence these specific frequencies were ever used or known in that era. Pitch standards themselves drifted for centuries and were not even fixed. The solfeggio set is, at best, a modern construction wearing an ancient costume. Knowing the origin does not make the tones harmful. It simply removes their authority. Consider 528 Hertz, often called the love frequency or the DNA repair frequency. The DNA claim is the easiest to examine because DNA is well understood. Repairing or altering a strand of genetic material requires specific enzymes and biochemical energy, operating at the scale of molecules. A pressure wave in air, vibrating 500 times a second, carries nowhere near the kind of targeted energy that could fold or mend a molecule of DNA. No peer-reviewed study has demonstrated such an effect in living human cells. The phrase sounds scientific precisely because it borrows scientific words. But borrowing the vocabulary of biology is not the same as obeying its rules. Then there is the 432 Hertz debate. The idea that tuning music to 432 rather than the standard 440 Hertz is somehow more natural, more aligned with the body or the cosmos. The standard of 440 Hertz for the note A was adopted internationally in the 20th century, mostly for consistency across orchestras, not for any claim of superiority. Small studies comparing the two tunings have reported minor differences in heart rate or comfort, but they tend to be tiny, inconsistent, and easily explained by expectation. The difference between 432 and 440 is less than a third of a semitone, a shift most listeners cannot reliably even hear. The cosmos, it turns out, did not specify a tuning. So if the specific numbers do little, why do so many people feel genuinely calmer when they listen? This is where the story turns, and where the skepticism softens into something kinder. The relief is real. It simply has a different cause than the label claims. Slow, gentle, predictable sound can guide the body toward that parasympathetic state through mechanisms that have nothing to do with a magic frequency. The tone could be 432, 440, or 511 Hz, and the effect would hold, as long as the music is slow and soft. Tonight is not about taking the comfort away. It is about finding where the comfort actually lives. And here, 10 facts in, the central question begins to reshape itself. We asked whether the brain responds differently to specific frequencies. It does, in the narrow sense that it can tell them apart. But it does not respond healingly to one sacred number over another. The brain responds to pattern, pace, and predictability far more than to pitch. A frequency is a single note in a much larger sentence. And it is the sentence, the rhythm, the slowness, the gentleness that the nervous system reads. Keep that reframing close. The rest of the night moves from the number toward the rhythm, where the real physiology waits. One of the most studied genuine effects of sound on the body is entrainment, the tendency of biological rhythms to synchronize with an external pace. You have felt it. A brisk song quickens your step. A slow ballad settles your shoulders. Researchers have observed breathing and even heart rhythm gently drifting toward the tempo of music played around 60 beats per minute, close to a calm, resting pulse. This is not mysticism. It is the body's ancient habit of matching its movement to the world around it. Entrainment responds to tempo, the spacing of beats in time, not to the frequency of any single tone. The clock matters more than the pitch. Why would 60 beats per minute soothe us so reliably? Partly because it resembles a slow, healthy heartbeat, and partly because it leaves long, even gaps between sounds. Those gaps allow the breath to lengthen. When music slows your breathing without you trying, a chain reaction begins. Longer exhales stimulate the vagus nerve. The vagus nerve signals the heart to slow, and the slowing heart feeds back a sense of safety to the brain. None of this requires a special tone. It requires a calm, steady tempo and the silence that surrounds each beat. The healing, if we must use that word, is woven into the timing far more than the tuning. The vagus nerve deserves its own moment because it is the quiet hero of relaxation. Its name comes from the Latin for wandering, and it earns it, branching from the brainstem to the heart, lungs, and digestive organs. About 4/5 of its fibers carry information upward, from body to brain, meaning your organs are constantly reporting their state to your mind. When you exhale slowly, you increase vagal activity, and the heart's pace eases on each out-breath. Calming music works partly by inviting those slower exhales. So a soothing track is not healing your cells. It is, more humbly and more truly, helping a nerve do what it already knows how to do. There is a measurable signature of this calm, and scientists track it through heart rate variability. Despite the name, a healthy resting heart does not beat like a metronome. It speeds up slightly as you inhale and slows as you exhale. And the size of that natural fluctuation reflects parasympathetic tone. Higher variability at rest generally signals a relaxed, adaptable nervous system. Studies of slow music have shown modest increases in this variability, consistent with deeper engagement of the rest and digest branch. The effect is gentle and real. And notably, it tracks the music's tempo and the listener's breathing, not the presence of any particular sacred frequency on the label. Expectation, 2, is a genuine physiological force, not a dismissal. When you believe a sound will relax you, your brain begins preparing for relaxation before the first note fully lands. This is part of the placebo response, and it is not imaginary. It involves real changes in attention, muscle tension, and stress hormones. So a track labeled a healing frequency may indeed help you unwind, partly because the label primed your nervous system to let go. This is why honest skepticism need not be cold. The belief can do quiet work, even when the claim is false. Understanding this lets us keep the benefit while releasing the myth. Binaural beats are a related phenomenon, often tangled up with frequency healing, though they work differently. If you play a tone of 200 Hz in one ear and 210 in the other, through headphones, your brain perceives a third, pulsing beat at the difference. Here, 10 Hz. This perceived beat exists only in neural processing, not in the air. Some studies suggest binaural beats may modestly aid relaxation or focus, while others find little effect. The research remains genuinely mixed. What is clear is that this is a real auditory illusion with a known mechanism. It is a more grounded idea than sacred tones, but still no guaranteed cure. It helps to separate three things that the word frequency blurs together. There is pitch, the single tone's repetition rate. There is rhythm, the spacing of events in time. And there is brainwave activity, the rhythmic electrical patterns of neurons, which also get measured in hertz. Healing sound marketing often slides between these, implying that playing a tone at, say, 8 Hz will produce 8 Hz brainwaves. But you cannot even hear 8 Hz as a tone. It is below human hearing. The slippage between pitch and brain rhythm is where much confusion breeds. Keeping them distinct is one of the most clarifying things you can do tonight. Can sound influence brainwaves at all to a limited degree? Yes, through a process called auditory steady-state response, where rhythmic sound can nudge certain neural oscillations toward its pace. But this depends on the rhythm of the sound, its pulses per second, not the pitch of a sustained tone. A slow, pulsing soundscape may gently encourage slower brain rhythms associated with drowsiness. Once again, the active ingredient is timing. The same lesson keeps returning from different doors. Your nervous system is a rhythm reader first. Tempo, pulse, and the slow architecture of silence move it. A lone frequency, however lovingly named, mostly just sits there being a note. Why does any of this matter for sleep specifically? Because falling asleep is, in large part, a parasympathetic event. Your body shifts away from alertness, lowers its heart rate, slows its breathing, and quiets the vigilance that keeps you scanning the day. Sound that supports this shift. Slow, soft, predictable, low in sudden changes, can ease the transition. That is a legitimate, evidence-friendly use of music for rest. The frequency printed on the file is almost beside the point. What your sleeping brain wants is a sense of safety and a gentle, unsurprising pace. Give it those. And the pitch can be nearly anything. Loud or jarring sound does the opposite, and this is worth noticing for balance. A sudden noise triggers the sympathetic branch, the alert system, raising heart rate and flooding attention. This is why a blaring tone, even at a supposedly sacred frequency, would not relax you. It would startle you. The body responds to volume, suddenness, and unpredictability with arousal, regardless of the tone's spiritual reputation. So the qualities that soothe are not encoded in mystical numbers. They are encoded in softness, steadiness, and the absence of surprise. The nervous system is consistent. It rewards gentleness and resists shock, no matter what the label promises. Consider what happens with familiar, beloved music versus a novel healing track. Familiar songs you love can release dopamine and produce that pleasant chill down the spine, while also feeling safe because your brain can predict what comes next. Predictability itself is calming. The brain spends less energy bracing for the unknown. A brand new frequency soundscape may relax some listeners and bore or irritate others, depending on taste and expectation. This variability is a clue. If a specific frequency held universal power, the response would be uniform. Instead, the response tracks personal meaning, familiarity, and preference. The fingerprints of psychology, not of a cosmic tuning. Cortisol, the body's main stress hormone, offers another measurable thread. Some studies of relaxing music have found modest reductions in cortisol after listening, consistent with a calmer state. But when researchers look closely, the reductions track the music's slow, soothing character and the listener's relaxation, not the inclusion of any particular tone. Swap a 528 Hz track for an equally slow piece in a different tuning, and the calming effect tends to hold. The hormone is responding to the experience of safety and slowness. It is not auditing the frequency chart. Your endocrine system, like your heart, reads the mood of the sound, not its mythology. There is also the simple, underrated power of attention. When you sit down to listen to a healing soundscape, you usually stop doing other things. You close your eyes. You stop scrolling. You let your shoulders drop. That deliberate pause, a small ritual of rest, is itself a powerful trigger for the parasympathetic state. The sound provides an excuse, a frame, a permission slip to be still. Much of the benefit people attribute to the frequency may actually belong to the act of pausing for it. This is not a trick. It is a reminder that the ritual around the sound can matter as much as the sound. It is worth saying plainly, none of this means sound healing is harmful or that you should stop using sounds you enjoy. Listening to calming tones is safe, pleasant, and often genuinely helpful for relaxation and sleep. The gentle correction tonight is only about the why. You are not repairing your DNA or realigning with a cosmic frequency. You are using slow, soft sound to guide a real nervous system into a real state of rest. That is a more modest claim, but also a sturdier one. Because it keeps working even after you stop believing the myth. Truth, here, costs you nothing. You actually valued. 25 facts in. A pattern has surfaced. Every genuine effect of sound on calm has traced back to the same small set of causes. Slow tempo, soft volume, predictable pattern, lengthened breath, and a willing pause, and away from the specific number on the label. The central question: does the brain respond differently to specific frequencies? Is quietly answering itself. It distinguishes them. Yes. It does not heal by them. What remains unexplored is the deeper machinery. How exactly a slow exhale reaches the heart. What the brain does with rhythm as sleep approaches. And why we so badly want the number to be magic. That is where the next arc begins. Right now, somewhere in your chest. The vagus nerve is doing its quiet work, easing your heart slower on every exhale. Not because of any tone, but because you have stopped adding urgency to the night. That nerve has been there your whole life, listening to your breath. The question that just opened: how a slow exhale reaches all the way to the heart, is not abstract. It is happening in you, in this moment, between one breath and the next. You do not need to direct it. The pathway already knows the way. Notice the pause at the bottom of your next exhale. The calm you came looking for is already arriving, by its own route. Now we continue. Let us trace that pathway the meditation pointed to. When you exhale, slowly, sensors in your lungs and the lining of your airways register the stretch and the slowing flow of air. They send signals up the vagus nerve to the brainstem, which in turn dials down the heart's pace. This loop, sometimes called the respiratory pump of vagal tone, is why long exhales calm you more than long inhales. Music that slows your breathing borrows this loop directly. So a soothing track's true power is indirect and elegant. It changes your breath, and your breath changes your heart. The sound is merely the invitation. The body supplies the mechanism. This is also why breathing exercises and calming music feel so similar from the inside. Both arrive at the same destination: heightened vagal activity, by slowing and smoothing the breath. A track at 60 beats per minute tends to pull breathing toward roughly 6 breaths per minute. A pace researchers have linked to peak heart rate variability and a deep sense of ease. That number, 6 breaths a minute, has far more physiological backing than any sacred frequency. It is not glamorous. It does not come wrapped in ancient mystery. But it is real, repeatable, and yours to use, with or without a single note of music playing. A gentle contrast clarifies the point. Imagine 2 tracks, identical in slowness and softness. One tuned to the celebrated 528 Hz, and one tuned a few hertz away to a number with no reputation at all. Played to listeners who do not know which is which. The calming effects tend to come out the same. The body cannot read the marketing. It reads the tempo, the volume, the smoothness. This kind of blinded comparison is exactly how science separates a real ingredient from a believed one. And in case after case, the special frequency washes out, while the slow, soft delivery remains standing. as the thing that actually mattered. Yet expectation keeps its seat at the table, and honestly so. If knowing the frequency is 528 Hz helps you relax, that knowledge is doing something through belief, not through the wave itself. Researchers separate these by hiding the label, and when they do, the frequency's special power tends to vanish while the listener's belief, when present, still nudges the outcome. This is the placebo effect behaving exactly as expected. It is not a flaw in you. It is a feature of how minds and bodies cooperate. The lesson is gentle. Keep what helps, including your own hopeful belief, while staying clear-eyed about which part of the help is real. Step back to the broader landscape of evidence. Reviews that gather many studies of music for relaxation, anxiety, and sleep generally find a modest but real benefit. Calmer mood, slightly lower stress markers, easier rest. But the same reviews almost never isolate a single magic frequency as the cause. The benefit attaches to slow, preferred, low arousal music as a category. This is the difference between a sturdy finding and a fragile one. Sound helps people relax. Sturdy, repeated, believable. A specific tone heals the body. Fragile, unrepeated, unsupported. Tonight rests its weight only on the sturdy floor, which is more than enough to carry a peaceful evening. Why are we so drawn to the idea of a precise healing number? Part of the answer is that numbers feel like authority. A claim wrapped in 528 Hz sounds more credible than simply slow. Gentle music helps you relax, even though the second statement is the true one. Specificity mimics science. We are pattern-seeking creatures who find comfort in exact figures, sacred origins, and tidy explanations. The myth survives not because it works, but because it satisfies a craving for meaning. Recognizing that craving in yourself is not a weakness. It is the beginning of a calmer relationship with both the sound and the story you tell about it. There is a real cost to the myth, though it is quiet. When people believe a particular frequency cures ailments, some delay genuine care or spend money chasing tones that cannot deliver what is promised. The harm is rarely loud, but it is worth naming with kindness. Using calming sound to rest and unwind is wonderful. Trusting it to repair tissue, cure disease, or replace medical treatment is where the gentle line should be drawn. Skepticism here is not coldness. It is a form of care. It keeps the lovely, low-stakes benefit of relaxing sound from being inflated into promises that can let a hopeful person down. Notice, too, that the whole experience is multisensory and contextual. Dim light, a comfortable position, the time of evening, the absence of a glowing screen. All of these prepare the body for rest alongside the sound. In a real living room, the healing track never acts alone. It arrives bundled with a setting that already says you are safe. You can stop now. Untangling the tone from its setting is nearly impossible in daily life, which is partly why the tone gets credit for what the whole scene accomplished. The frequency is one thread in a calming fabric. The fabric, woven together, is what holds you. Let us examine the cochlea's precision more closely. because it reveals why pitch alone is the wrong lever. Your inner ear can distinguish frequencies that differ by less than 1%, a finer resolution than most instruments. But this exquisite sorting exists for understanding speech and music, not for triggering recovery. Detecting a tone and being soothed by it are handled by entirely different systems. The cochlea identifies. The limbic and autonomic systems respond emotionally. A frequency could be flawlessly perceived and still leave your nervous system completely unmoved. The ear's accuracy, remarkable as it is, simply delivers the note to the door. What happens after depends on meaning, pace, and context. Sound also reaches the body through more than the ears. Low frequencies you can feel as vibration in the chest and bones, a phenomenon used gently in some relaxation practices with very low tones. This is real physical sensation, and it can feel pleasant and grounding. But again, the effect comes from the felt vibration and the slow, enveloping quality of the sound, not from a coded healing number. A soft hum you can feel may relax you because vibration at low intensity is comforting, the way a cat's purr or a distant rumble of thunder can be. The body responds to the texture of the experience. Here is a clarifying comparison across cultures and centuries. Lullabies, chanting, drumming, and humming appear in nearly every human society, and all of them tend to share the same features. Slow tempo, repetition, soft dynamics, and predictability. They were not built around 432 or 528 Hz. They were built around the body's natural response to gentleness and pattern. The universality is the evidence. If healing lived in a specific frequency, traditions would have converged on that number. Instead, they converged on slowness and repetition, the very qualities our physiology rewards. Human cultures discovered the real mechanism long ago, without ever needing to name a sacred tone. The brain's prediction machinery plays a larger role in calm than most people realize. Your mind is constantly forecasting what comes next, and uncertainty keeps it slightly braced. Repetitive, simple music lets those predictions come true again and again, and each fulfilled prediction is a tiny signal of safety. This is why minimal, looping soundscapes ease anxiety. They ask almost nothing of your forecasting system. A complex, unpredictable piece, even at a sacred frequency, would keep the brain working and alert. The relaxation lives in the predictability. The nervous system relaxes when it can stop guessing. And slow, repetitive sound is essentially a promise that nothing startling is coming. What about the claim that certain frequencies resonate with organs or cells? Resonance is a real physical effect. Push a swing at its natural rhythm and it climbs higher. But biological tissue is soft, wet, and heavily damped, meaning it absorbs vibration rather than ringing like a bell. Airborne sound at ordinary listening volume carries far too little energy to set an organ resonating in any meaningful, beneficial way. The resonance metaphor borrows a true physics idea and stretches it past where it applies. Your liver is not a tuning fork. The poetry is lovely, but the physics quietly declines to cooperate with it. Consider the role of silence within the sound. The pauses between notes, the spaces in a slow track, are where the breath finds room to lengthen and the mind finds room to settle. Music that is dense and continuous offers no such gaps. This is why sparse, slow compositions tend to relax more than busy ones, even at the same volume. The emptiness is doing work. A healing frequency played as a constant, unbroken drone may actually relax less than a slower piece full of breathing room. What soothes you is partly what is not there, the quiet that lets your own rhythms emerge. As we close this stretch, the picture sharpens. Every supposed property of a magic frequency has been gently relocated to a more ordinary, more reliable home. Tempo, breath, silence, prediction, vibration, expectation, and ritual. The number on the file keeps turning out to be a passenger, not the driver. And there is relief in that. Oddly, you do not need to find the one true frequency. You only need slowness, softness, and a willingness to pause. The healing was never locked behind a secret tone. It was waiting in the most available place imaginable, your own breath, and your own permission to rest. You've been listening for a while now, and somewhere in the last few minutes, your breathing changed without you asking it to. Just notice that. Don't judge it. Notice how the spaces between your breaths have grown a little longer. We're exploring the science of sound and stillness together. You and I and everyone resting in the quiet dark. Let's keep going, slowly. If the specific frequency does so little, why do so many testimonials sound so sincere? Because the experiences are sincere. People really do feel calmer, sleep better, cry with relief. The error is not in the feeling, it is in the explanation attached to it. This is one of the implications worth sitting with. A true experience can have a false cause. Recognizing this protects you in every corner of life, not just with sound. The relief is the data. The story about why is the interpretation. Separating the two lets you trust your own body while staying gently skeptical of the tidy reasons offered to you. There is an implication for how we evaluate any wellness claim. The gold standard is the blinded comparison. Does the effect survive when no one knows which version they received? Sound healing's specific frequency claims tend to evaporate under that test. While the broad benefit of slow music endures, you can carry this question into many rooms. Would this still work if I didn't know what it was? It is a quiet, powerful filter applied here. It dissolves the mystique of the sacred tone and leaves intact the genuine comfort of gentle sound. The filter does not make life colder. It makes it clearer. Notice what this means for personalization. Because so much of the effect runs through preference, familiarity, and meaning. The best relaxing sound for you is partly personal. For one person, it is rain. For another, a cello. For another, a slow synth drone that happens to be labeled with a frequency. The label is harmless as long as you understand it is not the active ingredient. This is freeing. You are not bound to chase someone else's sacred number. You are invited to find the slow, soft, predictable sound that you find safe. The science points away from one universal tone and toward your own ear. The implications reach into sleep onset directly. Falling asleep requires the brain to disengage from monitoring the environment, and unpredictable sound keeps that monitoring switched on. This is why a steady, gentle soundscape can mask sudden noises. A creak, a cut, a voice that would otherwise jolt you back to alertness. The benefit here is real and practical. Not healing, but shielding. Continuous soft sound smooths the acoustic landscape so nothing sharp breaks through. Many people who credit a frequency for their sleep are really benefiting from this masking effect, which any steady, gentle sound provides. Sacred number or not, let us address the brain directly. As you drift towards sleep, your neural activity slows, shifting toward larger, slower electrical rhythms. The hope behind some sound claims is that a tone can drag the brain into these slower rhythms on command. But sustained audible tones do not reliably do this. The brain's slowing is governed by its own internal sleep machinery. Hormones like melatonin, and the gradual withdrawal of alertness. Sound can support the descent by keeping you calm and unstartled, but it does not seize control of your brainwaves. The transition into sleep is something your brain conducts. Sound is, at most, a gentle usher holding the door. Here is a nuance that complicates the simple story. In a good way. Individual differences are large. Some people are highly sound sensitive and relax deeply with audio. Others find any sound distracting and rest best in silence. Neither is wrong. If you are someone who sleeps better without sound, no frequency will change that, and you should trust your own experience over any universal claim. The honest science respects this variation. It does not insist that everyone must respond to a tone. It observes that humans differ, and it lets you be the authority on your own nervous system. Your data outranks the label. Consider the placebo's deeper machinery, because it is genuinely fascinating. When you expect relief, your brain can release its own calming chemistry and shift attention away from tension before anything external happens. Brain imaging has shown real activity changes during placebo responses. So when a trusted healing track relaxes you, part of that is your own brain delivering on its prediction. This is not fakery. It is one of the body's most powerful tools. The frequency may be inert, but your expectation is not. Understanding this lets you harness belief deliberately and gently, without needing to pretend the tone itself holds power it does not have. An implication for honesty with ourselves. It is possible to enjoy something while knowing the story around it is embellished. You can light a candle, play a 528 Hz track, and feel wonderful, all while understanding that the calm comes from the ritual, the slowness, and your own readiness to rest. The myth becomes harmless once it is held loosely, as flavor rather than fact. Trouble arrives only when the embellishment hardens into medical belief. Tonight invites the lighter grip. Keep the candle, keep the track, keep the peace, and let the cosmic explanation drift off like smoke, unneeded and unmissed. There is also a social dimension. Listening to calming sound with others, or as part of a shared practice, adds the soothing power of belonging and co-regulation. Our nervous systems are partly tuned by the presence of calm others. A steady voice or a group breathing slowly together can settle us through deeply social wiring. Some of what gets credited to a healing frequency in group settings is really this: the ancient comfort of resting alongside others who are also at ease. The sound is the shared focus. The settling comes, in part, from the company. We calm each other more than we calm ourselves. 50 facts in. At the midpoint, the central question has nearly answered itself. Yet a tension remains. We have shown that specific frequencies do not heal, and that the real calm comes from tempo, breath, silence, prediction, and belief. But here is the unresolved edge the second half follows. If the body's calming machinery is so available, so built in, why do we keep outsourcing it to magic numbers and special tones? Why is it so hard to believe that the power was ours all along? The remaining facts move from the mechanics of sound into something closer to that quiet human question, and toward letting it go. What just opened? The question of why we keep handing our own calm to a special tone, a sacred number, anything outside ourselves, is not only a question about sound. You may be carrying a version of it right now. The quiet habit of believing the relief has to come from somewhere else. Something more impressive than your own slow breath. The second half of tonight follows the distance between that belief and the simpler truth. Notice your breath. Notice that it has been doing this all along. Slowing, softening, without waiting for permission from any frequency. The calm was never borrowed. It was only ever loaned back to you by your own nervous system. Now we continue. The second half begins by turning inward. The same parasympathetic calm that music coaxes can be summoned by breath alone, by warmth, by safety, by a familiar voice. Sound is one doorway among many into the same room. Knowing this changes your relationship to it. You are not dependent on finding the right track. You carry the mechanism with you everywhere, in the simple act of a slower exhale. The healing frequency was always a stand-in for something you already owned. Tonight, the sound is welcome company, but it is no longer a key you must search for. The door, it turns out, was never locked. Think about how infants are soothed. A caregiver's slow rocking, soft humming, and steady heartbeat calm a baby long before language or belief exist. There is no frequency chart involved, only rhythm, warmth, and presence. This is the original template of sound-based comfort, written into us before we could be told a story about it. Every healing soundscape is, in a sense, a grown-up echo of that first lullaby. The mechanism is ancient and pre-verbal. It does not need a sacred number because it predates the very idea of one. We were soothed by slowness and presence before we could be sold anything. Memory threads through all of this. A piece of music tied to a peaceful time in your life can relax you instantly. Not through its frequency, but through the calm it is linked to in your mind. The brain pairs sounds with emotional states, and replaying the sound can replay the state. This is why one person melts at ocean waves and another at a particular song. The healing is associative, personal, learned. no universal tone could carry your specific memories. The most powerful, relaxing sound is often simply the one your own history has taught your nervous system to trust. Meaning, not pitch, holds the key. Attention narrows beautifully as we relax. When you focus softly on a single, slow sound, the mind has less room for the looping worries that keep arousal high. This is close to what meditation trains. A gentle anchor for wandering attention. A calming track gives the mind something undemanding to rest on. And the rumination quiets simply because attention is occupied elsewhere. The frequency of the anchor barely matters. Its steadiness and softness matter enormously. So part of the benefit is that the sound gives your restless mind a low, easy place to settle. And in that settling, the body follows towards sleep. Here is a subtle point about volume and the descent into rest. As you grow drowsy, your sensitivity to sound naturally dampens. The brain begins filtering the world out. A track that felt present at the start fades into the background as sleep approaches, which is exactly right. This is why relaxing sound should be soft and unobtrusive. It is meant to be left behind. A sound that demands attention would keep you at the surface. The best sleep audio is almost designed to be forgotten, to dissolve as you do. It accompanies you to the threshold and then lets you cross alone into the quiet. The body keeps its own slow clocks, and they matter more than any tone. Your core temperature drops slightly to allow sleep. Melatonin rises in the darkening evening. The pressure to sleep builds the longer you have been awake. Sound cannot override these tides, but it can avoid fighting them. A calm soundscape works with the falling temperature and rising melatonin, removing obstacles rather than forcing an outcome. This is the humble, accurate model of sleep sound. Not a switch that flips the brain, but a smoothing of the path that your own biology is already walking down. It clears the way. The body does the rest. Worry deserves gentle attention here, because it is often the real barrier to sleep, not the absence of a special tone. Much sleeplessness is the mind refusing to stop scanning for problems. Soft, slow sound helps, mainly by interrupting that scan, giving the vigilant mind a sense that the environment is safe and unchanging, so it can finally stand down. The frequency is irrelevant to a worried mind. The steadiness is everything. If your nights are hard, the kindest framing is this: the sound is not medicine for your cells, but a gentle signal of safety for a mind that has forgotten how to feel safe. Notice how expectation and habit braid together over time. If you listen to the same calming sound each night before sleep, it becomes a cue, and the cue itself starts triggering drowsiness through learning. This is conditioning, the same process that makes a bedtime routine effective. The sound becomes a signal your body has learned to answer with relaxation. Over weeks, the specific track gains power not from its frequency, but from repetition and association. You are, in effect, training your own nervous system. The tone is arbitrary. The consistency is what teaches the body that this sound means now we rest. Let us be fair to the wonder of it all. That sound can move us at all. That vibrating air can summon calm. Memory, even tears, is genuinely moving. The mistake of frequency healing is not that it finds sound powerful. It is that it locates the power in the wrong place, in a number rather than in the rich interplay of body, breath, memory, and meaning. The real story is more wondrous than the myth, not less. You do not need a sacred tone to feel wonder. The ordinary truth that slowness and safety can reshape your physiology is wonder enough for any night. Consider how this reframes the whole industry of healing sounds. Much of it works, in the modest sense that it helps people relax, but it works for reasons it rarely advertises. The slow tempos, soft textures, and long durations are doing the real labor, while the frequency claims sit on top as decoration. You can enjoy the product while quietly correcting the story in your own mind. There is no need to feel cheated. The relaxation you bought is real. Only the explanation was oversized. Keeping the benefit and trimming the myth leaves you with something honest, useful, and still deeply pleasant to rest within. The deeper question, why we outsource our calm, has an evolutionary echo. Humans are meaning makers who feel safer when relief comes with an explanation, especially an impressive one. A sacred frequency offers a story, and stories soothe almost as much as sound. So the myth may persist partly because believing in a powerful external source of healing is itself comforting. This is worth holding with compassion. The wish for a magic number is really a wish for certainty and care. Understanding that wish in yourself softens the skepticism into something warm. You were never foolish, only human, only longing for the calm to be guaranteed. There is freedom in reclaiming the mechanism. Once you know that the calm lives in your breath, your attention, and your sense of safety, you become less dependent on any product or tone. You can slow your exhale in a waiting room, hum softly in the dark, or simply pause and let your shoulders drop. The portable nature of this is the gift. No subscription, no special file, no sacred number required. The healing frequency promised something external and scarce. The truth offers something internal and abundant. You carry the instrument. You always did. The sound was only ever reminding you how to play it. Let us revisit sleep with this fuller understanding. A good night is built from many small permissions. To stop, to slow, to feel safe, to release the day's vigilance. Sound can grant several of these gently, which is why it helps. But so can darkness, warmth, routine, and a quiet mind. The frequency is one small contributor in a large, cooperative system. When you stop expecting the tone to do everything, you can let all the other quiet helpers do their part too. Sleep is a chorus, not a solo. The sound is one voice in it. Welcome, but never the whole song. Notice how little effort true relaxation requires once the myth is set down. Striving to relax is self-defeating. The harder you push toward calm, the more you activate the alert system. Real rest comes from ceasing to try. A gentle sound helps precisely because it asks nothing of you. No belief, no technique, no chasing of frequencies. You simply let it be there while you stop doing. The least effortful path is the most effective one. So tonight, there is nothing to get right, no number to find, no method to master. 2. There is only the soft permission to do less, and less, and less. We can now state the answer clearly. Does the brain respond differently to specific frequencies? It perceives them differently. That is certain. But it does not heal differently by them. The calm you seek is produced by slowness, breath, safety, prediction, memory, and belief, working together through a parasympathetic system that was always within reach. The specific tone is a label on a door you could open with your own breath. This is the intellectual answer, and it is solid. What remains, in the final facts, is the softer, emotional version of the same truth. The part you feel rather than understand. And the emotional version begins to surface here. There is a quiet grief, almost, in learning that the magic number was never magic. But underneath it is something better. The relief of discovering that you were never powerless, never waiting on a frequency to rescue you. The calm you wanted has been yours the entire time, riding in on every slow exhale, every safe and unhurried moment. The sound tonight is a companion, not a cure. And that is the gentlest news of all. You are not broken and in need of a special tone. You are simply tired and allowed, finally, to rest. Let us gather the threads as the night deepens. Everything that genuinely calms you through sound shares one trait. It lowers the body's sense of threat. Slow tempo signals no emergency. Soft volume signals no alarm. Predictable pattern signals no surprise. The nervous system reads all of these as safe. And safety is the true gateway to rest. A frequency cannot signal safety by its number alone. It can only do so through how slowly and softly it arrives. The whole science of relaxing sound reduces, in the end, to this single message delivered to an ancient, watchful brain. You can stop guarding now. There is something humbling in how simple the real mechanism is. No sacred geometry, no cosmic tuning, no encoded ancient wisdom, just slowness, softness, and the body's own willingness to ease. We often resist simple explanations because they feel too plain to be powerful. But the plainness is the point. The most reliable comforts are usually the most ordinary ones. A slow breath, a safe, dim room, a gentle sound asking nothing. These have soothed humans for as long as there have been humans, long before anyone thought to assign them a frequency or a story. Consider how this knowledge ages well. A belief in magic frequencies tends to crumble the moment it is tested, and that fragility makes it stressful to hold. But the truth, that calm comes from breath and safety and slowness, only grows sturdier the more you examine it. You can rest on it without fear of being disappointed. There is peace in believing something that will not betray you under scrutiny. Tonight, you are not asked to take anything on faith. You are invited to rest on what is true, which is the most stable surface there is to lie down upon. The body's wisdom deserves trust here. Your heart has been speeding and slowing with your breath, all day, all your life. without instruction. Your vagus nerve has been carrying its messages faithfully. The whole apparatus of calm has been maintained for you, free of charge, requiring no special sound to function. When you finally lie still and breathe slowly, you are not building something new. You are letting a well-worn system do what it has always done. The sound tonight is permission, not power. The power was installed long ago, and it has been waiting patiently for you to stop and let it work. Notice how the frequency myth, for all its flaws, pointed towards something real. People reached for it because they sensed that sound could change their state. And they were right about that much. The instinct was sound, only the explanation went astray. This is often how myths form. A true observation wrapped in a false mechanism. Honoring the kernel of truth while releasing the false shell is a gentle act. You need not mock the belief or the believer. You can simply move the truth to its proper home, where it is safer and stronger, and let the rest fall quietly away. As sleep nears, even understanding can be set down. You do not need to remember any of this to benefit from it. The slow exhale works whether or not you can name the vagus nerve. The safety of a quiet room soothes whether or not you understand prediction. Knowledge is a gift for the waking mind, but rest asks nothing of it. So let the facts grow soft now, their edges blurring, no longer needing to be held. You have understood enough. What remains is only to let the understanding dissolve into the very calm it described. There is a kind of homecoming in this. All the searching for the right frequency, the right track, the right method. It can rest now. The destination was never far away. It was the simple state your body enters when it feels safe enough to slow down. You have arrived there many times without noticing. In the moment before sleep, in a quiet afternoon, in a slow breath taken without reason. Tonight, you arrive on purpose. The long search for the magic sound ends not in finding it, but in realizing you never needed to look outside yourself at all. Let the room hold you. The darkness, the weight of your body, the soft sound somewhere nearby. None of it is asking anything. There is no frequency to receive, no alignment to achieve, no technique to perform. There is only the slow settling of a body that has decided, finally, that the day is over. This is the state every healing claim was reaching toward, available now without any of the claims. You are in it, not because of a sacred tone, but because you stopped and breathed and let the watchfulness go. That was always all it took. 75 facts have brought us to the clearest statement of the night, and it carries a different weight than the rest. The brain does not heal by specific frequencies. It calms through slowness, breath, safety, and meaning, using a parasympathetic system you have always possessed. That is the intellectual truth, fully proved. The remaining facts will not add evidence. They will carry the same truth in a softer form. Less explanation, more feeling. Because as sleep approaches, the mind no longer wants to be taught. It wants to be reassured. And the reassurance is this: the calm was never out of reach. It was only waiting. Breathe slowly. Somewhere out in the world right now, The air is carrying sound it always carries. Wind moving through trees. Water finding its level. A distant hum that belongs to no one. None of it is trying to heal anything. It simply moves and settles and moves again. Your breath is part of that same unhurried motion. In and out. Slowing on its own. The way all things slow when nothing pushes them. You don't need to reach for a special sound. The calm is already arriving by the oldest route there is. A slow exhale. A body at rest. A mind that has set down the search. We're almost there. We'll continue gently now. Sound is only vibrating air. Pressure rising and falling. Nothing more. And yet it has carried you towards sleep tonight. Not through magic, but through your own quiet response to gentleness. The wonder is real. The mechanism is humble. Both can be true at once. There was never a hidden power in the wave itself. Only the long, patient willingness of your body to soften when nothing asks too much of it. Let that simplicity rest easily in you now. The vagus nerve is still working, easing your heart a little on every exhale. It needs no instruction and no special tone, no sacred number to obey. It has done this faithfully your whole life, through every calm night and every hard one, and it will keep doing it long after this video is forgotten. You can trust it completely. It does not require your attention to function. It only requires that you stop interrupting it. Slowness is the whole secret. Not a number, not a frequency, just slowness. In the breath, in the sound, in the drifting of the mind. Everything that ever calmed you shared this single quality. From a lullaby to a slow tide to a quiet voice. And slowness asks nothing of you. It is freely available, right now, waiting in the next unhurried breath you take. You do not have to find it anywhere outside yourself. Safety is the gateway to all of it. When the body believes no threat is near, it finally lets go of its guarding. A soft sound whispers that safety. So does the darkness. So does the warmth of the blanket. So does the simple stillness of the room. You are surrounded by quiet signals of safety tonight, more than you may notice. Let them through. There is nothing here that needs defending, and nothing left for you to watch. You were never powerless in this. The calm you once sought in sacred tones was always inside you, riding in on your own breath, waiting in your own nervous system. That is not a loss to grieve. It is the gentlest possible gift. The discovery that you carry the medicine, and always have, in something as ordinary and as constant as a slow exhale. Nothing was ever missing. You only had to stop looking outward to find it. The room holds you and asks nothing in return. No frequency to receive. No alignment to perform. No posture to correct. There is only the weight of your body settling deeper into the surface beneath you. The air moving softly somewhere nearby. The day finally releasing its grip on your shoulders. You have arrived exactly where every healing claim was quietly pointing all along. And you arrived not by trying, but by simply, at last, letting go. Prediction quiets the mind more than any tone could. When nothing sudden comes, the watchful part of you can finally rest its endless forecasting. The soft, steady sound nearby is a kind of promise. A promise that nothing sharp is coming for you tonight. Your forecasting mind can stop its work now. It has nothing left to brace against, no edge to anticipate. And somewhere beneath thought, it already knows this, and is letting the vigilance dissolve. Memory carries calm in ways no frequency ever could. Perhaps a sound tonight reminds you, somewhere far beneath thought, of being soothed long ago, rocked, hommed to, held. That quiet association is more powerful than any number on a label. The body remembers safety, and in remembering, it softens on its own. Let whatever piece is folded into your past rise gently now and hold you, the way it once did, before you had any words for it. The breath is doing all of it, and it needs no help from you. Slowing your exhale, it reaches the heart. It touches the wandering nerve. It eases the whole quiet system of rest into motion. You do not need to manage any of this, or even understand it. The breath already knows the way, and it is walking that way now, growing a little longer and a little softer with each pass, entirely on its own. Effort is the only real obstacle left. The harder anyone tries to relax, the more they quietly summon the very alertness they are fighting. So there is nothing to try tonight, nothing to achieve, nothing to get right. Simply stop. Let the doing fall away from your hands like something you no longer need to hold. Rest is not something you build. It is what remains when striving ends. And your striving is ending now, on its own. So, does the brain respond differently to specific frequencies? It hears them apart. Yes, that much is certain. But it calms through slowness and safety, not through sacred numbers. You have your answer now, complete and solid, and you can let the question itself dissolve. It was a good question. It led you somewhere true, somewhere worth arriving at. And now, like everything else tonight, it can soften and settle and quietly rest alongside you. The search is over, and it ended kindly. Not because you finally found the magic tone, but because you discovered there was never one to find, and never one you needed. The calm lives in you, and always did. That is a soft ending, free of any disappointment. You can set down the long, looking now, the seeking and comparing and hoping, and simply be exactly where you already are. Here, safe, and slowing towards sleep. Vibrating air became your companion tonight. Nothing more and nothing less. It moved through the room, brushed against your watchful mind, and reminded it, gently and repeatedly, that all was well. Nothing more was ever needed. Sound is wondrous in its plainness, mere pressure waves becoming peace inside a listening body, and it has done its quiet work faithfully. You can let it fade now, into the background, into the dark, the way all sound eventually goes. Your body is settling like something heavy at last finding the ground. The shoulders drop a fraction lower. The jaw loosens. The breath lengthens without you ever choosing it to. This is the parasympathetic state, arriving exactly as it was always built to. The moment you stopped standing in its way, no frequency summoned it here. You did, simply by ceasing, and it will only deepen further from here, asking nothing of you, all the way down into sleep. The truth is sturdier than the myth, and somehow gentler too. You can rest your whole weight on it without any fear of being let down, because it will not crumble under examination the way a magic number does. Calm comes from breath and safety and slowness. That is solid ground, the kind that holds. Lie down upon it fully tonight, the way you would on something you completely trust. It will hold you all the way through. Everything ordinary here is already enough. The dim room, the soft sound somewhere nearby, the slow breath, the safe and unremarkable darkness. None of it is special, and all of it is quietly working on your behalf. The most reliable comforts were always the plainest ones, hiding in plain sight. You are surrounded by them now, more than you realized, and together they are carrying you, gently, steadily, without any effort from you, toward sleep. There is no number to receive tonight, and there never was. No tone to align yourself with, no method to master, no instruction to follow correctly. There is only your own nervous system, doing what it has always quietly known how to do, the very moment you allow it. And you have allowed it now. The work, such as it ever was, is finished. Nothing remains for you to do. What remains is only rest, already arriving. The wish for a magic frequency was, underneath everything, a wish to feel safe and cared for. That wish was never foolish or naive. It was deeply, simply human, the same wish that hums beneath most of what we reach for. And tonight it is quietly granted, not by any sacred tone, but by the ordinary, available calm of a body that has finally decided, after the long day, that it is allowed to rest. Sound accompanied you faithfully to the threshold, and that was always its only role. From here, you cross alone, into the quiet where no frequency can follow and none is needed. The soft track fades as you fade, dimming exactly when it should. It was never the destination, only a gentle usher, holding the door open, lighting the way a little, while you walked through it on your own into the dark country of sleep. The day is fully over now. It's noisy, it's watching, it's endless, small searching. All of it can be set down here, at the edge of sleep. You do not need to carry any of it into the dark with you. The watchful mind has been reassured, again and again across this hour, that it is finally safe to stop. And so, at last, it stops. And so, gently, to you, nothing more is asked. Slowness, safety, breath. These three carried you the whole way here, and not one sacred number among them. Remember them tomorrow, or forget them entirely. It makes no difference now. They are working whether or not you hold them in mind. The way your heart beats without being asked. So let them fade too. Let even these last words go soft. You have already received everything they came to offer. and it is enough. You carry the instrument of your own calm with you, always and everywhere. No subscription, no special file, no magic tone required to play it. Wherever you go from here, the slow exhale goes with you, and the deep safety it brings rides quietly along. Tonight, that instrument is playing softly in the dark, almost without your noticing, and you are resting now inside its quiet music. Music that was, from the very beginning, only ever your own. The night was never empty of comfort. Not for a moment. It was full of it the whole time, woven into the dark. The quiet, the steady breath, the body's own old and patient wisdom. You only had to stop long enough to feel what was already there. And you have stopped now, finally, completely. So the comfort is here with you, close as your own breathing, exactly as it always was, waiting to be noticed. There is nothing left to understand tonight, and that is its own kind of relief. The facts have done their quiet work and can dissolve now, like sugar into warm water. Knowledge belongs to the waking mind, and the waking mind is already letting go of its grip. Let the words blur at their edges. Let their meanings soften and sink beneath the surface of a deep and easy quiet that no longer needs any explaining. And so, the answer, in its very softest form. The calm you once searched for in sacred sounds was never a frequency at all. It was you, your breath, your safety, your own quiet body learning. Once again, how to rest. The magic number does not exist. It never did. But the magic itself was always real. It was simply yours, the whole time, waiting under everything for the moment you would finally stop and let it in. Something shifted tonight, quietly, between the first question and the last. We began by examining a number printed on a label, a frequency promised to heal. And somewhere along the way, the number fell away and left only the breath behind it. The vagus nerve eased the heart on every slow exhale. The watchful mind stood down, not because a sacred tone commanded it, but because softness and safety told it the day was over. What looked like the power of a magic frequency was only the ordinary power of a body that knows how to rest. The sound was never the medicine. It was the gentle reminder. The healing, plain and freely given, was always the listener's own. The Deep Sleep Guided by Mind Science playlist has been tracing this same territory, one mechanism at a time. How the body's own systems, not external cures, carry us toward rest. The next video moves into the part of that map this night only pointed toward. That video is waiting whenever you are ready. The sound is fading now. The way vibrating air always fades once it has done its quiet work, softening into the dark, no longer asking to be heard. Let your breath grow long and slow, each exhale a little deeper than the last. If sleep comes, let it carry you past the place where any frequency could follow, into the rest. Your own body has been preparing all evening. But if your eyes are closed, stay there. Rest well, careful one. The calm you went looking for was never hidden in a sacred tone. It was always here, in the simplest breath you take, where curiosity ends and sleep begins. Good night.